Yeah, here we go. Reno, Vegas, Atlantic City, Lake Tahoe. Back before the Indian casinos, bro. That was the only place you could go gamble. Yeah, all this online stuff. We're going back to the way it used to be. And I want to tell you guys why poker is your best bet for everything when it comes to gambling. The bottom line is when I'm playing poker, I've got two cards in front of me. When I'm playing no limit, we're talking about no limit here. I get two cards in front of me. I've got a stack of chips, and I'm in a certain position, which determines how I play my cards. But I've got something in front of me. I have value. I can see what my cards are. I know what position I'm in. Okay. Opposed to, say, blackjack, okay, where you know what the conditions are with the cards if you're a card counter and you're paying a lot of attention and you haven't been thrown out of the casino. Craps, if you're paying attention to who's rolling the dice, or say sports betting, you know, if you're studying it and you know who's injured and who's coming off the back, you know the conditions, but you don't actually have vivid proof. Okay, probably the closest thing would be the sports betting, but there may be conditions there that make it difficult. So with the cards, you actually have the cards. You know, you got kings. You're gonna raise, or you're gonna put in a small bet, hope it gets raised somewhere else so you can go all in, right? You got Jack 10, Jack 10 suited. You're gonna try to get in cheap and snap somebody off, right? You got a pair of fours. You're going to try to get in cheap and snap somebody off with the set. You actually have the value, you know, and that is huge when it comes to gambling. So I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about blackjack, right? Blackjack, who knows? You know, it depends on which article you read, but, you know, anywhere from a 1 to a 1.4% disadvantage for the player, which is, you know, those are the best odds you're going to get. But the big problem with blackjack is, guess what? You're going to bust before the dealer. And that's the bottom line. Now, back when I was playing in the 80s, a couple things. One, they were mostly single decks. And we would go around just looking for single decks. Okay, why is that important? Because you can count down the deck and you can have a better idea at the end of the deck of what's coming out. Okay, and there was basically two types of methods we used to count the cards. I used the long halves, where cards had a value of 5. Fives were plus 1.5. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 were plus 1. 7, 8, 9 neutral. All face cards were -1, and aces were minus 1.5. Now, and we kept a side count of aces and fives. We kept a side count of aces because back then everywhere it paid 3 to 2. So if you had $50 out and you got blackjack, you got the 50 back plus 25. Okay. Now if you're playing some decent money over time, you know, that's going to be the difference between a win and a loss, right? Now many of the casinos are paying 6 to 5. And that's just brutal. You put out $50, you get blackjack. Now you're only getting 10 back plus the 50. So you get 60 instead of 75. The other thing that they started doing, they've been doing this for a long time. They've got 4 deck shoes and 6 deck shoes. Now, that whole thing, you can still count down those decks. And it's not as hard as people make it out to be to count down the deck. But the problem is they don't deal all the way down. So if there's a 6 deck shoe, they're not going to deal at 5.5 decks. Okay, they're going to deal about 3.5 decks, maybe 4 decks if you're lucky. So 4 decks have been dealt and 2 decks haven't. So that's a lot of random variables going on there. So the count just isn't, you know, as accurate as you'd like it to be. With the single deck, you know, and if they deal down, back in the day, they knew what you were doing, and people would deal down a lot more. But they've tightened up tighten it up a lot. Now, it's easy to tell when somebody's counting. It's simple. Now, it's funny because, as I said, I was kicked out of every casino um, halfway through my 19th year on the face of the earth here, uh, because it's easy to tell when somebody is changing their bet. You know something is up. So if I'm playing a 1 to 4 system, 25 if it's a low count or the beginning of the deck, and $100 if it's a big count. Okay, well, as the deck is being dealt, I'm either going to stay at 25 or I'm going to raise the bet. Okay, and if it's a +4 or better, I'm putting out $100, and if they'll let me, I'll play 2 hands at $100. Okay, I'll get out as much money as I can. Well, after watching that for a while, it becomes obvious that when there's high cards coming out, I'm betting a lot of money. When the high cards are out and there's low cards left, I'm betting less money because it's harder for the dealer to break. Okay, the whole thing is based off the dealer busting. And as I said before, you're going to bust before the dealer. And that's the whole deal on blackjack. That's why they may say it's a 1% disadvantage, but it's really hard to beat because you're going to bust before the dealer. If you're counting cards, they're going to nullify it because you're probably playing on a deck. And they're only paying 6 to 5 on blackjack, where they used to pay 3 to 2. So that's not the only thing. If you're playing like serious blackjack and all the books and all the system and stuff, those are based off like thousands of hands. So if I have a 12 and the dealer has a 12, has a 2 or a 3, I'm supposed to hit that. Well, if you do that and you're sitting on third base, which most of us like to do, so we can control the last card, people are going to get pissed off if you're sitting there and you hit a 12 with a 2 or 3 up, and you take the dealer's bust card, even though it's the right play. Same thing, you're supposed to split 4s against 5 and a 6 up card. Well, you start doing that, and it doesn't work out, and the dealer doesn't bust, people are going to get pissed off. You're supposed to hit soft 18 against a 9 or a 10. Once again, you do that, it doesn't work out, people get really upset. So if you're playing, there's 2 things about this. If you're playing the correct way, you're going to upset people, which, it's here nor there, but it's not great karma when half the table's pissed off at you. The second thing about that is when there's 5 or 6 people sitting at a table, you're not going to be able to get through hardly any rounds of a single or a double deck. They're not going to deal that many because they deal out a few hands and then they reshuffle. Different if you're playing on a shoe, but once again, they're not going to deal that shoe all the way down. And then there was some movie came out a few years ago, Kevin Spacey movie, and the whole premise of the movie was the cut card. And then if you knew what the cut card was, that was going to give you a great advantage. They don't go down to the cut card. Okay, that was theater. That whole thing, that movie wasn't really that accurate. And once again, the whole premise on counting cards is this: is the high cards you want to see, and the low cards are not good. So if there's a lot of high cards left, that means 2 things. If there's high cards plus aces, you're going to get 21s. Okay, if there's high cards, you're going to get 20s. If there's high cards, a dealer's pat hand, a 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, they're going to bust. Okay, that's the idea. If there's low cards, you want to bet less money because there's a better chance of the dealer making their hands with 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 because there's lower cards. Okay. And as I said, the system that I used to use, the long half system, is we love to see the 5s out of the deck because a 5 can make any dealer's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 16 can make them a pat hand. So we wanted the 5s gone. We wanted the aces in the deck because they used to pay 3 to 2 on the blackjack, and many times that was the difference between a win and a loss. Okay, the best way, and the other thing about blackjack is you either have to play early in the morning, okay, anywhere from maybe like 3 or 4 in the morning till noon. Um, so you can get one-on-one or two people with the dealer. You get more than that, and then you don't get to you don't get to see enough profitable hands. Um, and then the most important thing as opposed to poker is you don't know the cards you're going to get. I can't tell you how many times I was sitting there playing and it's a +5, it's a +7. I'm playing two hands, right? I put out $200 because, hey, it's a +7. And then I get 13, I get 15, and the dealer has an ace up or a 10 up. I mean, it just seems to happen all the time. You don't know the cards you have. Okay. Kind of the same thing. You can talk about craps. Craps is, I think it's 1.4 disadvantage. That's if you just play the straight money line where you roll the first one. If it's a 7 or 11, you win. If it's a 2, 3, or 12, you lose. And if it's anything else, then that gives you a point. And if you roll that point before you roll a 7, then you win. Okay. But then they've got all kinds of other gamuts, other bits, which are less and less valuable. Roulette, you would think roulette would be even, but there's the 2 green, the 0 and the 00, and that kicks the advantage to the house. I did a segment on sports betting the other day. Sports betting's great, but you got to pay the VIC. You got to pay 110 to win 100, and then you have to deal with the lines, and the lines are crazy. Just like tonight, for instance, a lot of people in the betting community were shocked that the Golden State Warriors were a 1.5 favorites over the Spurs. I was messing around the internet earlier today, and all these gurus and geniuses, they're, premium picks. These guys, boy, they got a racket going. They'll charge you $50 and they'll give you their premium pick. And their premium pick was San Antonio on the road over the Warriors, with the Warriors as 1.5 point favorites. The Warriors were up by 20 most of the first half. Right now they're up 76-62 with about 6 minutes to go in the third. So it looks like those guys are going to lose their premium picks. Not that they care, but the people who paid the $50 and put $1,000 on the Spurs or whatever they bet are going to care, and they're going to be pissed off. You got to deal with those point spreads. Point spreads are difficult. I don't know how many simulations are run for each game, but for some reason the point spreads are very, very accurate. And then if they seem to be a little off, like in this Warrior game, they seem to favor the team that they shouldn't favor. So the sports betting for me, I love to do it, but I only like to do it when I'm up in the casino, and I usually bet $55 to win either 105 or lose the 55. It's very difficult to beat. You got to come in at a 52.4% clip to break even. No thanks. I'll stick to poker. So that's kind of where we're at. Remember, when you're playing poker, you get to see the cards. Okay, so hey, I'm in great position. I can play Jack 10. I'm on the button. I can play a gap suited connector. I can take a raise with a pair of 7s if I'm on the button. You have everything in front of you. These other things, you don't know what you're getting. You're putting the money up first, and then you're getting your cards. Then you're getting your dice. Then you're watching the game. So I think your best bet is to stick with poker. More lessons to come. You guys be safe. Wear the mask. Social distancing. We'll see you soon. Scagz out.